Yeah, there we go. Back in the game, YusefWateef. So this is, I think, this is the first time I've done 2 in one day. That first one, I just had to do a public service announcement on getting away from people for the holidays, and I don't think I was wrong. I got a couple of private messages and I got a couple of emails from people saying, I really needed to hear that. And for anybody who didn't check it out, I did one earlier today, and we ended up talking about how not everybody around you is good for the holidays, but.
I'll tell you what, man, I just learned that lesson like maybe 3 years ago,
really?
After trying to be, it was a tough lesson to learn, but sometimes you got to just cut it. Get rid of toxicity.
People don't understand. And I always say, and I said in the video over and over and over, and it's a short video. I call it a bullshit Thanksgiving, and it's avoiding Thanksgiving. Matter of fact, hold on, for anybody who wants to take a quick look at that one. Let's see.
Yusef, I still have the blue screen down. What do I do about that? I can't see the comments.
The blue screen.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on. Let me.
It says you're in the show. That's like right below everything.
Well, hold on. First, this is the one we're talking about. A bullshit Thanksgiving, live avoiding Thanksgiving holiday stuff. Everybody go back and check that one out. Now, if it says you have a blue screen, I don't know what's going on. I know Naima can see us normally, and she's out there promoting. Thank you so very much. Peace, DJ Moss. Glad you could take some time out of your day to join us. So where I was, here's the thing. All of us have experienced life abroad. And Thanksgiving, everybody's talking about what they're thankful for, and I'm watching people stretching budgets, and I see people. You're making me seasick, Miss Charlotte.
I apologize.
You can't just turn the phone around and act like it's normal.
I can't. Is everything okay with me having the phone this way? I'll be still. Oh my gosh.
Conway, I think you're echoing me. So just unmute when you want to talk. In any case, what I want to talk about was, I've spent most of my adult life traveling. More than half my adult life, I've been outside the United States. And in that time, I've seen people living the American dream abroad. And that's the one that I don't think enough people. Gonway, are you there? I think that makes it better. Can anybody else hear the Gonway echo before? Yeah. But here
Am I echoing? Am I echoing still?
No, when we talk, you're speaking. I'm just going to say mute until you talk.
All right.
You're good here. Yeah, you're good on my end.
Yeah. But what I wanted to talk about was that, that upward mobility dream and those Thanksgiving specials and people pull up to the family home that's paid for and the cars that they own. I'm seeing in the United States right now a diminishing of the American dream, or rather what people look at as standard. I'm seeing people glorifying living in vans. Now, don't get me wrong. If you're 25, like there's a girl right now on YouTube that is like the largest YouTuber in the world, and she videos out of a van. She lives in a van with her dog, and it's this high-end van. But here's the thing. I see people living out of vans and cars because they're forced to. I'm watching people who, when they were children, thought they would have more than their parents, not. But I'm seeing so many Americans realize that entire concept of doing a hard day's work, saving some money, having more next year than you had now is only possible overseas. Well, and I want everybody to go through and, you can introduce yourself when you give me your opinion, because I have a couple of things in mind, but I don't want to get too far down the road. Let's start with Miss Charlotte. Go ahead.
My name's Jury Charlotte. I'm originally from Houston, Texas, and now I live on the island of Roatan, Honduras. Anything else?
All right.
Next.
Yeah, my name is Craig Washington. I just moved to Sao Paulo, Brazil from Tampa, Florida, and I'm just happy to be a part of the conversation.
Craig looks like a straight criminal wearing all black with sunglasses against a white background.
Hey, that's what I guess.
Well, take my word. He's a handsome guy with a sterling beard. You'll see him again. He's been here before. Conway.
Sway, Rio de Janeiro, from Minneapolis.
Oh,
I don't know what else to say. Yeah,
Right on.
Yeah, Conway just got back to Rio. Rio is like that abusive girlfriend he just can't stay away from.
It's actually, I think my perception of Rio has changed. I wouldn't say it's an abusive girlfriend. I think like maybe it's like heroin. You know, you're like, God damn.
Machiavelli, like you gotta have.
You can just walk out.
You gotta have.
You're like, I can't leave. It's pulling me back. It's calling me.
I don't want anything like that. That sounds terrible. Have you seen heroin addicts?
No. And I'm just being a little hyperbolic, honestly. It's nice though. You know, I've actually met another brother from the States, from Miami. So I mean, I meet a lot of people here. It's by accident, actually. They're like, "Oh, are you American?" And I'm like, "Sure." And then they're like, "Oh, well, I'm gonna hang out with you then." I'm like, "Cool, I guess." I'm not gonna say no. So hey, it is what it is.
Yeah, and that's what got you. You know what? We're not gonna do that. That's not what we're here for today. So here's what I'm saying. All of us have taken turns, some longer, some shorter. And actually, I think you're the most recent graduate of the ExPat Club and living abroad, right, Dre?
Yes. I moved to Roatan, Honduras 2 months ago.
And that was your first time living abroad, right?
Yes.
Because we've had some serious conversations on how your mind has just exploded with the concept of a good standard of living at a reasonable cost. And disclaimer, we have the American privilege, we have the privilege of American education, but the concept that a standard university or college education can't get you a decent life in America, well, that's the crime.
Yes, and that's true. We talked about the idea that everyone pushed, at least where I came from, everyone pushed upon me the importance of a education. And so everyone went to university, and a lot of my friends went and got their masters and went and got their doctorate degrees. And I would say I'm friends with some pretty, I guess I was friends in high school with some pretty successful people. They've gone on to become editors and doctors and lawyers and engineers and such. But we all worked like crazy people in our 20s. And there was this idea that you chose a field that was going to be lucrative. You went to school so that could validate your presence in someone's organization, validate the want to make above 5 figures a year. And eventually, when your credit lined up with your debt to income ratio, you could buy a house. And you get married, you'd have a family, you'd go on a couple of vacations a year, and then you'd live happily ever after. And so that is not necessarily true for a lot of people. I've heard of people going in the oil and gas industry, and they do a set of massive layoffs, and then there goes your 6-figure income. A lot of people are living at home. A lot of people are, divorced and lost everything in the divorce, and it's finding it very hard to rebound in certain industries. It's definitely not the shiny, happy ending that was sort of promised to us. And I can remember being in elementary school and going to one of those, what we like to call magnet schools or schools for the gifted and talented. And ExxonMobil was sponsoring my school when I was in elementary, and all of the engineers would stop by and talk about how much money they made and how successful they were. Yes, and we would all go, ooh,
Now that makes sense because you being in Texas, that makes perfect sense. I get it.
Yes. So even then, I went to a fine arts magnet school. I'm a musician, but they were still pushing for us to go into oil and gas or go into some variation of that. Either we were all going to be doctors.
Texas, right?
Yeah, this is in Texas. I'm from Houston, Texas. And I'm not saying that it's not necessarily possible. I just found that it seemed like the amount of work that I had to do just to break into middle class was exhaustive.
And watch this. How do you define middle class? That's where it gets. Remember, I had 10 years in the financial business, working with everything from large companies to individual clients. how do you define middle class? That's interesting. I don't need you to give up your numbers. I'm not trying to tap
No,
your
no, no,
pocket.
no, no. I was talking about just the ability to live in a reasonably nice neighborhood that's attached to a good school system. You could either own your car outright or, have a reasonably decent car that wasn't going to break down on you. And you live close to all the good grocery stores. That was my definition of it.
That's not that big of a
Sure.
stretch. That seems kind of reasonable.
It does, except for where I lived, the houses and the apartments were, $2,000 a month and up, and the houses were starting at 500,000 to $1 million. So either you could live in the hut that was next to the mansion, or you could try to get in the mansion. And it had nice parks, and there were dog parks in the area, nice places to walk your dog, places where you could, walk at 10 o'clock at night and no one would mug you. Standard, I would call it city suburban middle class.
Now, Craig, you just left the United States a couple weeks back, right?
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
What was the feeling you got there? Because you and I are educated men with the ability to feed ourselves, but when guys like us find just so much better deals, leading a life that's not an exotic life, but just to be able to be comfortably in middle class with a level of education that we have, are you seeing that back home? Are people who are not expats thinking maybe I should travel? Because I think as an expat, I always travel because I want to see the world, but I'm seeing people traveling as economic refugees.
Well, I can tell you this for a fact. A lot of people that would describe themselves as millennials, they're actually looking, particularly with the aid of social media and the internet, they're actually seeing beyond the borders of the United States, and they're seeing possibilities outside the border. So there are actually more people that are younger than myself that are getting educated outside of the United States. They're actually taking their opportunities outside of the United States because they see the United States, that middle class dream or that American ideal, they actually see that ideal slipping. Most people that I know that are a little bit younger than myself, they're working 2 and 3 jobs. They're part of the gig economy. They're either doing Uber, Postmates, or they're hustling. They're hustling, trying to make ends meet. And I'm talking about lawyers. I'm talking about, people with professional degrees.
Wait. How does a lawyer get it? Well, first, define what a gig economy is. A gig economy is for the people watching. And how is a lawyer in the gig economy? How does that even work?
Okay, well, I'll tell you, a gig economy is basically your side hustle. Everybody has a side hustle in the States. You have your main job, and then you have your other jobs that help supplement whatever goals you have for the future, because your main job doesn't pay you enough. So how a lawyer becomes part of the gig economy is that he's in debt. He's got student debts, right? So unless he was brilliant and he got a full ride scholarship, he's got to pay those student loans. And so his salary as a lawyer may not be cutting it when he first starts out. So he's got to get a job as an Uber driver or, other side hustle so that he can make his ends meet, so that he can, go towards his goals. But,
when I was young, your side hustle was your passion project, and the money you could just put in your pocket and not worry about. You had your regular job that would keep the lights on and chicken in the oven. But that's
that's necessary income nowadays, my friend. It's income that you need to live off of, because your daytime ain't really cutting it. Now, again, that's not for every person, but increasingly it's more so for a lot of individuals. I'm talking just basic guys, college education, just trying to make it in the world.
Yes, a lot of the people that I know a lot of them have second jobs. Back when I was, in the business of owning after school programs, the people that worked the after school programs were the teachers, but not the teachers, the staff. They all would work all day being a teacher, and then they would, jump up and make $25 an hour doing after school, and they would give that extra 3 hours a day to work that second gig. And so it is not only when the teachers decided they wanted to not do it anymore, you see people coming over from Apple to come and do that job. You see people coming over, the janitorial services people, because they're all cleared to be around kids because they're in the school district already, coming to get that job. So people, all of the musicians that I know, that are also adjunct professors, and they're teaching, they have their own studios. They're also playing for churches. So from what I understood, only musicians or artists had 2 and 3 and 5 and 6 gigs. But now, as Craig is talking about, it's across the board. doctors, lawyers, all have some type of side hustle. Maybe you have a doctor that goes over to the DR and has a practice set up there to supplement the practice they have in the States. I mean, everybody is doing 2 or 3 different things now.
As a matter of fact, I know individuals that have one job. You know, back in the day, you know, if you got one job, that was pretty much your job that you had for a while. Nowadays, people get jobs and they already thinking about the next opportunity that they're going to have because they don't expect that they'll be there more than a year or 2. That's how desperate things are.
In Rio?
You know, honestly, like, cause when I left, Rio was pretty. I mean, it was pretty destitute. I'm not even gonna lie. You know, there's a lot of reports of people being homeless, and there's still a problem with homelessness. But a lot of the folks that I've rekindled with, as far as connections, a lot of them are working. So I can honestly say Rio is. I mean, the United States.
The people that you're connecting with from the United States, is that their situation? Are you meeting poor
the people that I know from the United States? They it's kind of a mixed bag. I got the guy that I just met, real cool dude. He owns his own business in healthcare, so his money's straight. It's not going nowhere. I know what he does, and it's a very stable industry. It's not really going to go anywhere. I know I have another homeboy from Boston. The dude teaches English on a regular basis. So I think that really depends on what your skills are. You know, like if you're someone that doesn't really have like a high skill cap, then teaching English may be the only thing that you're able to generate an income. If you're somebody who is business savvy, or you have, you know, maybe a engineering or programming, whatever the high skilled and high demand skill is, then, you know, you're pretty much good everywhere. That's from what I've seen. Because I kind of Google, I look online to see what jobs, not just in Brazil or the United States, but what jobs are lucrative across the board as far as globally. And a lot of them are the same thing. A lot of the programming, STEM, engineering. So if you, I actually met an engineer here the last time, who studied in, I think, Texas or Florida, lives in Baja da Tijuca. Apartment's ridiculous. I mean, it's like a Diddy apartment, to be honest with you. So he's like, yeah, man, I studied in the U.S. I worked in, he worked in another country. He came to Brazil because he wanted to be in Brazil. And so, I mean, I think at this point, I wouldn't necessarily say, it really just depends as far as the American dream goes, because you could be lucky, like you said, and if you're brilliant, or maybe just the luck of the draw, you don't have a high debt burden, you could live the American dream with, you know, low overhead. But if you're not lucky, you know, you're gonna be stuck doing 2-3 jobs. I know several people who do that. But I mean, that's just.
Well, first off, I want to say thank you for saying homeboy, making sure that nobody forgets the classic homeboy. I haven't heard that word in a long time.
I'll be the slang. I'll bring the slang vernacular to the show.
And second, you know, it's tragic, and I wonder sometimes, and I'll ask all 3 of you this: do you feel lucky? Because I could not have imagined, and for the record, people, and I'll narrate over the screen that I always share. My career, I'm an editor, copy editor, proofreader. I do editing for everything from books to magazines that need to be done in university level English, things like that. And you can all catch up with me on LinkedIn. I'm the same person everywhere. And for the record, professionally, I tell people, don't look at my resume. Always scroll down and look at my boom, boom, boom. Look at my connections and look at my recommendations to tell you who I am. But here's the thing. I think I'm lucky that I was in a situation that I had a career that I could just throw on a laptop and go to another country with. I started this career on a small scale privately in Las Vegas. I expanded a little bit in China, and now I'm in Brazil. And I can go anywhere because a lot of my jobs come over the internet for people who hire me to do editing and things like that. But I feel like I got lucky because there was a time in my life when I was going to be a professional chef. I hold a cordon bleu chef's medallion from Johnson & Wales University, even though I abandoned that career. I have friends who did the right thing, who have stable careers where they should be okay, and nothing is okay. Do you feel? Oh, hey, how you doing? And do you feel lucky about where you are? I mean, do you think could you have planned to need the skill you have to travel? And let me back up, Craig. Anybody who you are, what you do, are you going to be promoting yourself here in Brazil? Do you have private income? Is that why you're wearing the dark glasses? Or are you going to go on record and say you're going to be putting in work on the Brazil?
Make it seem like I'm surreptitious and being coy. Now, I'm actually just trying to figure out my next move right now because I'm a retired PAX administrator, and so I have a little bit more disposable time on my hands. So part of my move to Brazil was to kind of figure out that next phase on what I want to do. And you were talking about the laptop economy. I don't think it's so much luck. I think it's as much as being an early adapter to technology and recognizing, the new avenues of opportunity. And for those that partake, those are the ones that get to, bear the fruits of the labor. So I think you were smart in catching on to the wave early. For people with more traditional careers, they're going to have to retrain and regroup and remove and do some other things. But yeah, the world is changing and you have to learn how to adapt and know will come with it. So for those that have that mind frame and that mindset to do something different and step outside of their comfort zone, they will always be successful wherever they are in the world. It's truly a global village. And in the age of the internet and social media and computers and technology, everybody's connected in some way or fashion or form. And so the quicker you can get onto the tech, the better your opportunity, like I stated before.
Well, first off, laptop economy is new for me, so thank you for that new phrase, Jure.
Yes. To answer,
you act like you weren't just listening to anything anybody just said.
I heard you. It was just a delay.
She's clued in. She's clued in.
You're so snarky. To answer the question, do I feel like I'm getting? Do I feel like I got lucky? Honestly, the love affair has just started for me, so everything is brand new. I feel like I'm getting away with murder. I've never been so happy. It is wrong to be this happy.
I'm gonna have to snitch on you a little bit. We were on a phone call discussing some private business, and she was about to cry because she did not want to go back to the United States after living there.
I feel you. You know what? I feel you. I feel you.
I want to do it.
We should actually talk about. We should talk about that. We should talk about that.
Yeah, I was throwing a fit. I was throwing a bit of a fit because I want to see my mom. I came here to visit with my family. My brother has this baby who's 4 months old and the most adorable thing I've ever seen in my life. And so you want to interact with your family at the same time. You don't want to get on a plane. You don't want to deal with Americans. You don't want to come back to what feels like you're being rushed everywhere. Like everyone here seems like they're doing a fast walk everywhere they go. And everyone is a bit of, they're a bit snarky. They're a bit irritable. They don't want to let you over. You can't, impede on whatever progress they have. And obviously you are out to get them, so it's a bit much because in Roatan is like, it feels like the whole island feels like a small town to me. There's there's one main road, one lane going to, one lane going fro. You're driving as slow or as fast as you want. You're doing 30 miles an hour or you're doing 50. If you can hug the curves, hug them. Everyone has this sort of this we'll get to it when we get to it attitude. And I can remember I couldn't get something right, and the night came, and I want to always get home before it gets dark. And my neighbor said, well, if you don't get it done today, tomorrow is also a holiday. It will happen when it happens. And so I really did not want to come back to this rat race.
When it happens.
It'll happen when it happens because tomorrow is also a holiday.
That's real.
That's so un-American.
I know. I'm trying to get my mom to come back with me. I asked my mom, I was like, hey, why don't you come back to the island for, a couple of days and just kind of, hang out? And she was like, my passport just expired. But she seriously was thinking about it, and I was already finding flights. So I love it here. I can't wait to get back home. My neighbors are already text messaging me, asking me if I need a ride back to the house.
They want to pick your brain.
Huh?
They want to pick your brain about your experience.
Maybe, or they're just.
One thing.
No, go
ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just gonna say maybe they're just.
One thing that I noticed is.
Okay, let's wait. Let's do this one at a time. Ready? Craig, and then back to Jure.
Yeah, there's a bit of delay, so it catches you off guard. So what I was going to say was that we don't really recognize as Americans the pressure cooker that is America until you actually leave it and then you come back. And then that's when you see how frantic everybody is. You see how pissed and angry. There's a constant state of fear and paranoia that everybody's under. And I think it's by design, but I'm a conspiracy guy. I think it's by design. But you don't notice that until after you're gone. You see how the rest of the world lives and how, everybody's, that phrase that you said, Charlotte, makes a lot of sense. Everybody lives that way except for us. And then you appreciate something like that. When you actually go back and visit, you're like, nah, I got to get out of this. And that's why a lot of us leave.
Well, let me interject real quick. When I got back to Rio, that whole your own pace thing irritated the hell out of me. Like, I got so mad because like people walk, and then in Rio, I don't know if they do it in Sao Paulo. Let's say 6 people are walking on the sidewalk. It's the entire sidewalk. So it's like you either like licenza, excuse me, or you like walk on the street and go around them. And it took me a good solid 2 weeks to just kind of relax and be like, well, Brazilians are generally late anyway. So if you say like 6 o'clock, it usually means like 7:30. So it's like I had to get used to that lack of promptness. Yeah. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. That's just the culture. But you're right. Once you get out of the States, you're forced to kind of just take that weight off your back because whether you know it or not, you walk around with that chip on your shoulder, you're gonna stand out. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if it may be in another context, but I meet a lot of Brazilians that meet foreigners and they said, wow, foreigners are really aggressive. You guys are really high strung. And I used to take the time to explain why that is, but I don't do that anymore because it's like they wouldn't understand that unless they live in the United States. So I kind of just allow them to continue with that just because I don't feel like it's my place to have to explain it to everybody. But that is true though. You know what I'm saying? I did have one of my homeboys come out here and he was like, I can see why you want to live out here. I'm like, well, you know what I'm saying? It doesn't really take much to get up and go depending on your situation. So
well, before I pivot, Jure, Randy Woman wants to know where you living because you were in now where she wants to know where the amazing place that has the winding roads and sleep in all day kind of attitude is.
I live on the island of Roatan, Honduras. And it's the farthest, it's in the Caribbean, but it's the farthest island closest to the mainland in the Caribbean. So when all the hurricanes come through, we don't get any of them because they've gone through all the other islands. So we just get a piece of that rain. And it's basically a little piece of paradise. The weather is 79 to 84, 85, Monday through Friday, all the time. I think the hottest it gets there is about 90 degrees. And the beach is beautiful and everyone's really happy.
Oh, she has a critical question for you.
The most beautiful men. Yes.
Beautiful men.
Very beautiful men, very beautiful women. Yes. All the people are good looking. Yes.
So where I was going to go with this is one thing we can't forget is the reason that we get to have such an amazing life abroad. We wouldn't be able to do it if we hadn't been raised in the pressure cooker of the United States. Because people ask me all the time, well, what? Aren't you afraid traveling the world, for example? What about racism? And I have to remind them, if you survive in the United States of America, you have nothing to fear. And they say the same thing economically. They say, well, how are you going to support yourself? I say, well, if I manage to make a decent living in the United States, there's no place, no cut through. It's not going to happen.
I can live like a king somewhere else.
A situation where it's going to be more difficult to make a dollar.
Oh, yeah, I have a small story to talk about when I got right onto the plane. So Harley and I travel with my dog, my Australian Shepherd, and I had to get exit papers for her to leave Honduras, which I didn't know was a thing. And so the person that drove me basically turned around and drove the dog to the local vet and paid $160 and drove the paperwork back to me. So we were we were the last people to board. So because I have a requirement that my dog flies with me, we typically sit up front. Why is it that the white man that was sitting next to me asked me right as I got onto the plane, is this your seat? I said, and I looked down at my ticket. I said, yes, sir, I'm in 3F. He said, oh, my wife was going to sit here. She's in 5A. Perhaps you'd like to switch seats with her. That is my experience in the United States. I hadn't even left the country yet.
And then we look at it and say, of course not.
I said, absolutely not. That will never do. Excuse me. My dog and I need to sit here. And so he was very agitated, and I did not care. But that is, yeah, man. Are you crazy? Have you lost your mind? You want me to switch my first class seat just because you didn't want to sit with your wife?
That's poor planning on his part. I mean, why do you have to pay for that?
I know. Hey, bad leadership. Bad leadership. Well, quick question to Rainy Woman. She said she plans to travel the world as a free person. I don't know what that means. But
I know what it means.
Huh?
Nothing. Go ahead.
No, what'd you say?
I said, I think I know what she means.
Go ahead.
Well, I'm going to let her explain it, but I think my definition of it is somebody without borders who's truly free, that can, since they were born on the planet, they can actually travel and go wherever they want since they are a world citizen. I may be reaching.
Be like she's not being a debt slave if that was the situation of having expenditures.
Okay.
That was my.
Well, she's welcome to explain it to us there, and let us know exactly what's going on. I'm not quite sure, but yeah, that entire concept of us being able to travel the world to get our piece of the American dream. I also tell people something that a lot of people don't know, don't see, or maybe they just don't talk about. Is it my imagination, or has there been a huge brain drain of people wanting the American dream that are Black Americans, specifically Black Americans with opportunity and or education, deciding I don't need this anymore? Because I always maintain, if you are Native American or a Black American, you owe the United States absolutely nothing.
For sure.
And so one of the interesting things is I've seen the best and brightest Black Americans that I know, the guys that I came up with or that went to school with, just do business with, in private groups, struggling with this whole, why am I even here? Yep. Why am I here when I could do the same job for a different company for less money, but still be able to save 50% of my, because that's my thing. I walked away from a very lucrative business where I could save a good chunk of my, that 10%, 20%, to a situation where I could save a lot more, even though I'm earning less and I work for myself. And it's like, why shouldn't you leave? Because for most people, it's like blasphemy to say, well, why would I want to live someplace else? But then they meet somebody like one of us.
Well, all money is just not good money. That's really what it comes down to. I mean, how do you want to spend your time? I downsized my company so that I could do this because I could not see running a project without me being there. And it seemed like I did not find the appropriate labor to be able to yield the results that I was looking for. So I did not want to tarnish my brand. So I just shut it down. And someone asked me, what did you do with Elite? And I said, well, we're just going to run summer. And that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to work 4 months out of the year so that I can make my income and continue to move about the way I want to. But I'm with you, Yusef. Sure, we could make more money if we spent more time grinding the wheel, beating the pavement, and we would be fatter and we would be tighter, and we wouldn't be able to have the time to actually spend the money, much less the time to rest from project to project. And so that's just not the kind of life I want to live. And I think back when I felt like I had something to prove when I was in my 20s, my business was young. I'm coming out of a teaching internship program. I don't have the district behind me, but I want people to sign up and I want people to sign on. Sure, I was willing to work that 80-hour week, but at 37, not anymore. I just can't. I find more value in being able to sleep till 7 if that's what I choose to do.
And she means 7 p.m.
That's not true at all. I go to bed at 8:30.
Hey, nothing wrong with that. I think we recognize when we get a little more mature that quality of life is sometimes better than actual making dollars. I know it's pushed on us as Americans, but even for me, I'd much rather be able to go to work when I want to and live the type of lifestyle that I want to and living it now, as opposed to waiting until I'm 70, 72. And, those are my golden years. And now I want to enjoy something, that it just doesn't work anymore. It just doesn't work. Yeah.
Not to mention with the way that our government is treating Social Security, and they call them entitlements, but it's something that you've earned over time. The way that they're going back and forth on that, what do you actually have to look forward to in your golden years?
True.
If you do stick around? You work for a company that would rather hire someone younger and less experienced just so they can cut your pay. You work for somewhere that wants you all day and all night, and they still degrade you. I mean, I'm just going to say this as an African-American woman. It just felt like no amount of time was enough time for those people. Like, they didn't respect my time. That's what it felt like to me.
I don't even think that was because you were a Black American woman or an African American woman.
I think that's capitalism.
Yeah, the gears of capitalism genuinely do not give a fuck about you.
Yeah.
And when the woman popped back in, she said, free of destructive debt, lightweight, and free of any attachment to maritime laws, and my straw man.
She did it. I knew it.
Straw man. What's that?
I knew it. Yep.
What's a straw
Are you
man?
just being cryptic on purpose so I have to ask you more questions? We're going to have a conversation about this. And the ability to live this laptop.
Wait, Craig knows what she's talking about, though.
She's talking, I don't want to speak on her behalf, but when she said maritime law and straw man, I know exactly where she's coming from. Put it that way.
Are you two just going to play word games with me on my show?
If she wants to elaborate, that's fine. But that's not the topic that we're talking about. So I'm not gonna hijack the conversation and go off course.
I feel conspired against.
You feel left out. That's what it is.
But that's what I'm getting at, is that whole American dream that doesn't include being lazy or getting things you haven't earned. But what you said about Social Security, one of the most brutal arguments I would get into with my clients, I worked with a financial professional, was who's echoing? One of my biggest discussions that I would get into with my clients is, here we go with the conspiracy. She said, you get it, Craig. We'll have to have a chat about that. Was the concept of Social Security. People think, and I don't understand. No, I do understand why. Most people never get the time to actually study the way an economy works. I don't mean become an economist. I mean just understand the way money works. Because again, one of the privileges of being able to earn enough money that you can save is you can also purchase time. And I talk about this all the time. You can purchase the time you need to educate yourself on the things that you need to learn. The way the capitalist wheel works is it grinds you down by making sure you're too worried about making your next meal and working that 50 hours a week to a job that's never going to pay you enough to live, to worry about whether or not Social Security is even a real thing. And I have no faith in Social Security or the federal government. I want to be clear. I have no faith in it at all. People wonder why I learn how to invest in other countries and cryptocurrency and Bitcoin. I can say I feel comfortable. Go ahead. Oh, I thought somebody was chiming in on the delay. But I wish I had enough faith in the capitalist government that we have. But working with money closely enough, I was completely disabused of any illusion. When you work with money, you learn that everything that you want to believe just isn't true.
That's just sad.
What, her jumping in cartwheels?
No, everything that you want to believe just isn't true.
Oh yeah,
it sounds like a death of innocence.
It is.
Yeah.
There is you just gave me a great title: the death of financial innocence.
You're welcome.
The death of financial, or I'll just let her join me. How's that when I talk about it?
Sounds good. We've talked about finances. I'm in the category of a layperson.
Yeah.
When it comes to financial literacy.
Yeah, but the death of financial innocence was necessary for me to realize that after almost 10 years of working in the financial business, I hit that pivot point where I understood enough about business, enough about money to get out. because when you really understand that no one is coming to save you, even the government that claims it's going to be there.
Yes.
Yeah, trusting somebody else with your money, including and that's sad that we live in this time, but we live in strange times. It's sad to live in such strange times, but I think here we go. Check this out. I have no faith in Social Security, etc. for us, and I haven't. So not really. Then we have to do something different. Yeah. We got to do something different. So, if we're living the American dream overseas or abroad, however we want to phrase it, what do we owe America? Do we owe our American friends? Do we owe our American families? How are we going to deal with this? Because
I mean,
when I'm going to
taxes because of FATCA, but nothing really other than that. Like
I agree.
You know, I mean, FATCA is going to fuck you either way, but you know, and that's crazy because the United States is the only country that taxes the citizens that live overseas. So it's like, you want to live overseas? Well, we still gonna need a piece of that, whatever you're making over there, and then you get taxed in the country that you're in.
Right.
So it's like, you know, what I'm saying?
Like in Brazil, and you got to give a cut back at home. But you know why they do that? They want to discourage the best and brightest who can work anywhere. They want to make it painful for you to leave.
I'm glad you brought it back to that point, because you talked about the whole, brain drain and people leaving. I think the United States kind of cannibalizes itself because you get all of these immigrants that kind of come here from other countries. They want to start businesses, and it's sort of like when they get their education and we get their money, we kick them out. And a lot of times they're forced to leave, and they'll go to Canada or they'll go to South America because that opportunity just isn't for them. So we kind of cannibalize ourselves for what we believe to be short-term gain, but we're actually losing out long-term because we're getting rid of all the talent. We're actually doing the reverse of what the country did post-World War II when they took in all the smartest and brightest to try to build up our country. We're doing the reverse, the complete opposite now, because we're so focused on making that short-term money, we don't see too far into the future. And it's going to be the demise of the United States. I don't know when, but it's coming soon.
Black Male Talk said, sounds like subjective morals, and I asked him to elaborate on what he meant. He always has a lot of interesting insights, but that's the thing, the United States right now, with currency, for example, as with anything of value, it has no intrinsic value. Its value is completely determined by the faith people have in it. Mm-hmm. I use the American dollar, for example. The American dollar isn't on magic paper, but people have faith in the United States government being stable. Well, people have more and less faith in that paper, and they've turned to things that are over time becoming more and more stable, like cryptocurrency and Bitcoin, because it's not attached to a government. Okay, hold on, we have an answer here. I have people who live out of the U.S. and still collect Social Security and live comfortable on 110, like upper middle class outside the U.S. All that.
Yeah, that's a thing.
Yeah.
It's very possible. And to elaborate on that, it's really interesting how when you tell people, they say, well, how did you do that? How did you move abroad? Or how did you pick where you wanted to live? And it's like the minute that I found out that a nice place, one of the islanders said, you want to live somewhere nice, that's going to start at $600 a month. And my jaw just dropped. And I was like, okay. And the fact that I was living with my ex-husband, and it was a big deal for us to get this apartment that was $1,700 a month when we first got it. It was a huge deal. And he had this job and the business was doing that. And, we drove these cars, and it was insane. We had car notes and car insurance, and that was above the $1,100 a month. So this idea that I could divest from materialism, and divest from the idea of living large, so to speak. I hate to be cliche, but that I have to have the largest apartment, that I have to have the brightest and the brand newest car, that I had to fill my apartment with all of those things, the way that Edward Norton character talks about on Fight Club. Once I divested from that, then the whole world opened up to me, because I didn't need all this shit.
I tell people all the time in the United States. I had a 4-bedroom house with an upstairs living room, a downstairs living room, a fireplace, a full kitchen, a full dining room, a hot tub, and a swimming pool, and an area for me to build a blacksmith forge in the backyard. And then when I realized I just want to travel and I don't need all this stuff, it caused a big shakeup for me in a lot of relationships. But here's the interesting part. Once I'd left all that behind, now I live in a small, simple place. And get this, right? And people got bent up over this, so I'm going to talk about it. I did a Brazil cost of living expenses, and then people got bent up about me having a maid. So I decided to give them a half an hour ear beating about Brazilian maid service just to make sure they stayed mad. But it's like, and I pay almost nothing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Look at this.
I think it comes down to like the programming, because everybody, I'm pretty sure, well, I'm gonna snitch my age. I'm the youngest person on here, but I think it comes down to the programming, because it's like, as far as I remember growing up, shows like National Geographic, other those shows with documentaries and kind of giving you what they want you to see of other countries. In your mind, you're like, well, I don't want to live in that shithole. America's got to be the best place to live on earth. And to some people it may be, to a very select few. But once you kind of get out of, some people say the matrix, or once you kind of get out of the bubble that you put yourself that you're living in, you kind of see everything for what it is. When I first, Brazil being my only country right now, but when I first got to Brazil, there's a lot of things that caught me off guard. I was like, I completely didn't know, they had this or they had that, you know what I'm saying? And it changes your worldview. So, until people really are going to challenge themselves, kind of break the programming that they're taught, there's always going to be that loop of, you work hard, you get yourself in debt, and then you got to work 2-3 jobs to get out of debt, and you don't really get to enjoy life. Now, to close, I read, what book was that? Cash Flow. I think it was Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Cash Flow Quadrants, or I think it was, Cash Flow Quadrants. And it kind of, from that moment, I learned to value my time. And I think if there's one thing that I think Americans don't value at all, is our time, because I think a lot of people don't realize how much of a irreplaceable commodity it really is. And I think if people really, took that to heart, or, at least thought about how much of a limited resource that is, I think a lot of people will kind of be more conscious of what they do, not even just financially, but just life in general, to be honest.
Yeah.
You know what, on that, because I don't want to keep everybody too long. So here's what I'm getting, is that the American dream is possible. It's possible for a lot more of us than we think. It just may not be possible in America. It simply may be possible as good as America. But if you don't know that, you don't know that. And we all have people who talk to us and they consistently think we must be lying when I say things like, oh, I'm going to go catch Uber downtown. And they go, you have Uber in Brazil? I'm like, do you have the internet? Have you ever just Googled the city I live in?
You were so offended when I said that.
Yeah.
We don't have Uber on my island.
Well, you live on a tiny island. I live
You're an exception, though. You're an exception.
He was like, yes, we have running water. And I was like, we do too. But we don't have Uber. That's a thing.
Yeah, but how many people are on that island?
44,000.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
We do have taxis.
Tiny neighborhood here in Sao Paulo, Brazil.
Like a small neighborhood. That's like Copacabana, not even half of Copacabana. It's like
that's like downtown at the beach area, and that's
Well, before I decided to move to the island, I was going to move to Dripping Springs, Texas. So I had already decided that I didn't. Houston is the either 3rd or 4th largest city in the United States. I already decided I didn't want to live this type of life anymore. I just didn't know where, so I started a leg of my business in Austin and figured if I liked it that much, I would settle down there. And it was just by chance that I came to Roatan on a vacation. And I literally on the second day said, I want to live here. I came back to the United States, packed my things. And in 28 days, I was living there.
Wow,
that was that.
Wow.
I do want to say something on your American dream piece, though. I think to say that it's not achievable in America may be a little bit too broad of a statement, just because I think it's being redefined. Like instead of the traditional college route. I mean, I did college for a few years, and I was like, I'm done with it. And I did the, jump into the job market, get skills or whatever. And so made myself more marketable. I think what a lot of guys are doing now, and women too, is they're skipping college, the trade school, that maybe they'll work, in a trade job, electrician, plumber, so on and so forth. And, you got plumbers making, 150,000, you know what I'm saying? They making doctor money, and they just, they may own a plumbing business, or they're a master plumber. So I think, in terms of the American dream, how you get there has been redefined. It's not so much you work an office job, you go clock your 40 hours for 40 years and white picket fence or whatever. Now it's, you do HV, heating, air conditioning, or, you work yourself up small business, 5 years, you can pretty much do what you want to do at that point. It's just that the whole stigma of plumbers, you're a guy that plunges shit out of a toilet. What do you know about making money? You know what I'm saying? There's always.
Did you watch Blue Collar Wisdom with my buddy Pat, electrician? We're talking about that. I'm big on education, and he's an electrician, and he really gave a great insight on that blue collar hustle in America and how lucrative it is. So I want everybody to take a look at that. Listen, I gotta go. You gotta go. The last thing I'm gonna say though is that Kudu Juice said something. Hey, he's right on time. He said many Americans believe the social safety net is a normal part of life and don't understand that it's only been around since Franklin Delano Roosevelt, president, implemented it. No social safety net is normal in life.
That's true. And it still took a good 10 or 15 years before citizens really understood what that was about.
Scary world. Thank you. And by the way, and I forgot to say this earlier, everybody make sure you click subscribe and the thumbs up and the bell. This is how I meet other great people, is by having conversations like this. And I really appreciate if everybody shared this somewhere like Twitter or Facebook, or as I famously tell people, put this link to like my profile on your Tinder profile so that you can actually say, hey, listen, if we got an hour covered, let's come up with some interesting stuff to talk about afterwards.
Wow, man, you are wild.
Have these kind of interesting conversations, like, yeah, so do I. So kind of in between.
Dudes don't care about that. You know that, right?
Yeah, but here's the thing. Sometimes she already here. She's gonna be staying, and now you're gonna just stand there and look at each other for 30, 40 hours until the morning comes. No, you can just say, hey, let's talk about some interesting stuff. Go on that.
You get your stuff and you go home.
I appreciate the hustle.
Nah. Hey, I'll pass on that, brother.
You get your stuff and you go home. That's what you do.
We ain't coming over here to have no political debates, fam.
Okay. Wow, you are some cutthroat, cold-hearted people.
Yeah, I admire the hustle. I'll be nice, man. I'll be nice.
Not even a bowl of cereal. Just
please leave. Thank you so much.
Like, look, I got stuff to do in a few hours.